Welcome, traveler. Tonight, we set aside the noise of the present and step softly into the past. Let the quiet voices of history guide you into rest, as we remember lives once lived under candlelight and shadow. In the Middle Ages, the approach of a new life was both a cause for hope and a well of anxiety. Long before the first cries of a baby could be heard, the household would begin to prepare, not with sterile rooms or modern machines, but with rituals, charms, and whispered prayers. The very air seemed to hum with anticipation. A mother-to-be would be surrounded by women who had borne children before her. Midwives were summoned weeks in advance, their knowledge a blend of experience, inherited wisdom, and superstition. Their arrival marked the seriousness of what was to come. Herbs would be gathered, rue to ease fear, vervain to protect from harm, fennel to strengthen the mother's womb. Each plant carried not only a physical purpose, but a symbolic one, a quiet hope that the unseen forces of the world might be swayed to kindness. Pregnant women were careful with omens. A black cat crossing the path, a bird flying too close to the window, or a sudden gust of wind could stir unease. Some families prepared talismans, charms stitched into the mother's clothing, little knots of protection hidden beneath the folds of skirts. They recited prayers softly, so that neither the child nor the spirits might be offended. Every action, no matter how small, was measured for its potential influence on what was yet to arrive. Outside the chamber, the husband waited. He had no hands in the labor to come. No herbs to grind, no chance to whisper. His role was quiet, limited to pacing the floor, offering comfort when it was requested, and praying in solitude. Fear for his wife, for his child, pressed upon him like the weight of the stone walls around him. Medieval men understood that childbirth was dangerous and often fatal. They knew that even the strongest woman might falter under the hours of labor to come. And yet, there was nothing he could do but wait. The house itself seemed to sense the approaching birth. Fires were kept low and steady, the hum of daily work softened. Windows were shuttered to keep the air warm and the spirits calm. Candles flickered, their shadows stretching across the beams and floorboards, as if marking time in quiet anticipation. Friends and family might offer words of comfort, tokens of good fortune, or small gifts to ward off evil. Each act, each careful preparation, was part of a larger, invisible tapestry, one woven from fear, hope, and faith. And so life paused in expectation. The world outside might continue in its rhythms, but inside that chamber, the present was suspended. Every breath was measured, every sound noted. The approach of birth was both ordinary and sacred, a reminder of the fragility of life and the unseen forces that people believed watched over it. In this stillness, as the mother rested, herbs at her side and prayers in the air, a quiet magic lingered. The stage was set, the players ready. Soon the trial of birth would begin. But for now there was only the waiting, a patient, trembling anticipation, heavy with love, fear, and hope. The birthing room was a world apart from the everyday hum of a medieval household. A fire burned low in the hearth, casting a steady, flickering warmth across the stone walls. Shutters were tightly closed, keeping the light dim and the space private. The room was quiet, save for the soft crackle of logs and the occasional murmur of whispered words. Outside, life went on, but inside, time itself seemed to slow, drawn taut by anticipation. The mother lay on a simple bed or on a straw-filled mattress, blankets tucked around her. She was surrounded by women, mothers, aunts, sisters, and neighbors who had experienced birth before her. Sometimes, nuns or other religious women came, carrying holy water or crosses. Midwives took their places closest to her, hands ready, voices calm, trained eyes watching every movement, every sound. Their presence was both practical and reassuring, a shield against the many dangers that threatened both mother and child. Salt was sprinkled in corners, not for seasoning but to keep away the evil eye. Holy water was dabbed on the mother's brow, on her hands, and on the bedding. Incantations and prayers, softly intoned, filled the air. Every whisper was meant to protect, to ease the labor, to call the unseen forces to mercy. The room was thick with the scent of herbs, rue for courage, rosemary for health, and perhaps a sprig of lavender to soothe the mind. Each aroma carried its own promise, a quiet hope that the coming moments would pass without tragedy. The midwives worked steadily, moving with practiced grace. They murmured instructions, pressed gentle hands to the mother's back, and guided breathing. There was no clanging of instruments here, no sterile metal, no modern monitoring. Instead, there was touch, observation, and centuries of passed-down knowledge. The women around her chanted blessings or offered prayers, their voices forming a low, comforting hum, a kind of human warmth that flowed alongside the fire's heat. The husband, if present at all, waited outside the closed door. Medieval men were often kept from the birthing chamber, both for superstition and propriety. Their role was silent vigilance, pacing, praying, and hoping. Some left small tokens, a cloth or a ribbon, for the mother's hands to grasp when the contractions pressed hardest. Their concern was distant, like a shadow, but real and pressing all the same. Time in the birthing room was measured by contractions, by murmurs, by the slow passage of breath. The room existed outside the normal flow of day, a space where life could begin or end. Every heartbeat, every whispered prayer, every careful touch mattered. And through it all, the mother labored, surrounded by ritual, by faith, and by the experience of those who had been there before her. In that warm, dim chamber, the sacred and the ordinary were intertwined. Firelight danced on walls, prayers swirled in the air, and the slow rhythm of labor continued. The world beyond the shutters faded, leaving only the immediacy of life about to enter it. Here, amid the salt, holy water and whispered blessings, the first cries of a new life were waiting, poised to break the silence and to begin the long, uncertain journey of childhood in the Middle Ages. Childbirth in the Middle Ages was not a simple event. It was a trial, a test of endurance that could last for hours, sometimes stretching into days. Time seemed to stretch and warp in the warm, dim birthing chamber. The mother's body worked tirelessly, every contraction a reminder of the delicate balance between life and death. Around her, the women and midwives whispered, murmured, and sometimes prayed louder, their voices rising and falling like a quiet tide. Herbal remedies were laid within reach. Rue to calm the spirit, mugwort to strengthen the body, dill, fennel, or even a drop of wine to ease the pain. Some of these treatments were harmless, others risky, the line between aid and danger thin and ever-shifting. Midwives moved with careful hands, administering what had been learned over generations. Small charms or amulets might be pressed into the mother's palm, their meanings whispered in secret, intended to ward off evil spirits and guide the child safely into the world. Even the most experienced midwives knew that not all births ended well. The risk of death was ever present, looming like a shadow over the firelit room. Mothers sometimes succumbed to fever, hemorrhage, or exhaustion. Infants were fragile, their small bodies vulnerable to the slightest complication. One wrong turn, one misjudged movement, and tragedy could strike. There was no doctor to call, no hospital to rush to, only the knowledge and skill of the women in the room and the quiet prayers carried to the unseen. The sounds of labor filled the chamber. Gasps and groans, the shifting of blankets, the soft commands of midwives, and the whispered prayers of kin. Each sound measured the passage of time, each one a marker of endurance and hope. The mother's face reflected her pain, her determination, her fear. Her body bore the full weight of creation, and every heartbeat, every contraction, was a rhythm in the long, demanding song of life. Sometimes desperate measures were taken. Midwives might use instruments or methods now considered dangerous, all in the hope of saving one life or another. These practices were guided by experience, superstition, and tradition. Each decision carried weight. The room seemed to hold its breath with each passing moment, aware of the fragility of both mother and child. The labor was a story of resilience, of human endurance, of trust and knowledge passed from one generation of women to the next. It was a ritual as much as a medical event, woven with superstition, faith, and the deep understanding of the natural world. Time in the birthing chamber moved differently than outside. Hours stretched, minutes weighed heavily, yet every moment was infused with hope, with prayer, and with the constant, quiet awareness that the outcome was never certain. In the end, whether life emerged safely or tragedy struck, the trial of childbirth left an indelible mark. It was a reminder of the fragility of life, of the courage of women, and of the intricate web of care, ritual, and knowledge that made survival possible. Each birth was a testament to endurance, a quiet drama of pain and hope, a first step into the uncertain world that awaited every child. The first moments of a newborn's life in the Middle Ages were filled with both wonder and urgency. Once the baby emerged from the trial of birth, a new chapter of care began. The child, often small and fragile, was immediately washed, the midwife's hands gentle but purposeful. Water warmed over the fire, sometimes mixed with herbs, helped cleanse and soothe, washing away the remnants of birth and welcoming the infant into the world. Then came swaddling, a practice both practical and symbolic. Soft cloths, long and narrow, were wrapped tightly around the baby's body. Arms pinned gently to the sides, legs secured in folds of fabric, the child became a bundle of warmth and security. Swaddling was believed to protect the newborn from the cold, from sudden harm, and even from the wandering spirits that might threaten a tiny, unguarded life. To the eyes of medieval families, a well-swaddled baby was a baby who had a chance. For some infants, particularly those born weak, premature, or struggling to breathe, time moved differently. There was no delay, no room for error. Midwives, ever vigilant, sometimes performed emergency baptisms. A drop of water on the brow, a whispered prayer, and the child was granted the sacrament. Life and soul were intertwined in these fragile moments, and baptism became a safeguard, a hope that even if the child did not survive the night, their spirit would not be lost. The midwife's role extended beyond the practical. She was witness, healer, and in many ways, a substitute for a priest in those first critical hours. Her presence ensured that the birth was recorded in memory, in prayer, and in the household's collective awareness. She monitored the baby's breathing, guided the mother in her first movements, and ensured that the fragile life was nurtured from the very beginning. Herbs, poultices, and careful observation were part of her arsenal, alongside a lifetime of learned wisdom passed from one generation to the next. Every sound, every sigh, every cry of the newborn mattered. The first wails were listened to not only for signs of life but for omens, for the earliest intimations of health and character. The family held its breath as the infant's chest rose and fell, the firelight dancing across small, delicate features. Relief was quiet but profound when the child's color improved, when the cry grew stronger, and when the swaddled bundle relaxed into sleep. Even these first moments were shadowed by uncertainty. Infant mortality was high, and families lived with the knowledge that not every child survived. Yet the rituals, the prayers, the gentle care, and the guidance of the midwife created a fragile bridge between birth and survival. These hours, often unseen and unrecorded, were the beginning of life's long journey. They were marked by tenderness, fear, and hope in equal measure. In the quiet warmth of the chamber, as the fire burned low and the baby slept swaddled and secure, the first chapter of life was written. Every swaddling cloth, every whispered prayer, every careful observation was a testament to the endurance of human care and love. In these moments, life in all its fragile glory began. After those fragile first hours, the newborn's life in the Middle Ages settled into rhythms both strict and tender. Swaddling continued for months, sometimes until the child could crawl or even walk. Long strips of cloth kept arms and legs bound, compressing the small body into a shape thought to encourage straight growth and proper posture. Mothers and midwives worked carefully, wrapping and tucking, adjusting as the infant wriggled, until the child resembled a tightly folded bundle, secure against the world's dangers, both real and imagined. Feeding was central to survival. Most infants were breastfed, and the mother's milk was prized as both nourishment and medicine. It was warm, natural, and endlessly repeated, a constant in a world where so much was uncertain. For the wealthy or those whose mothers were unable to nurse, wet nurses were employed. These women, often trained in the arts of infant care, provided milk to children whose families could afford their service. Their hands soothed, their presence ensured that the baby would grow strong, and their milk carried not only sustenance but a careful ritual of feeding that was as much about habit as nutrition. Yet life was not indulgent, and the survival of the infant demanded early weaning. Once teeth began to appear, the child was gradually introduced to pap, a simple mixture of bread soaked in milk or water. This gruel was bland but filling, easy to digest, and offered the beginnings of a diet beyond the mother's breast. Pap was more than food, it was training in independence, a step toward growth, a way for the tiny body to learn the rhythms of chewing and swallowing without harm. Every feeding was careful, measured, and often repeated many times in a day and night. The medieval household revolved around these small necessities, and families understood the fragility of life in each bite, each swallow. Parents and caregivers watched for signs of suffocation, colic, or weakness, and herbs or poultices were applied when the child seemed unwell. Midwives taught the ways of comforting infants, guiding mothers on how to hold, rock, and soothe, while quietly observing for illness that might signal a deeper danger. Swaddling and feeding were accompanied by the attentions of family, neighbors, and the ever-present superstition of the age. Amulets, charms, and whispered prayers might be placed around the cradle, guarding the child against the unseen. A lucky stitch in the swaddling cloth or a whispered incantation over the pap was believed to shape the child's fate, to protect the fragile new life from misfortune and from the ever-present threat of disease. Despite all care, the shadow of mortality was always near. Many children did not survive their first years, and the practices of feeding, swaddling, and ritual were both preparation and protection. In these small acts, wrapping tightly, offering milk, stirring the soft gruel, families expressed both devotion and a deep understanding of life's fragility. Each day passed quietly, each night watched over carefully, as infant life unfolded slowly, rhythmically, under the steady eyes of mothers, midwives, and the vigilant household. In these months, the child learned warmth, taste, and comfort. The world beyond the swaddling cloth and the spoonful of pap remained distant, but within the chamber life continued, small and persistent. Every sigh, every swallow, every soft cry was a testament to care, hope, and the enduring effort to nurture life in a world that offered no guarantees. Life in the Middle Ages was fragile, and nowhere was that fragility more evident than in the earliest years. The shadow of mortality hung over every household, over every cradle. 1 in 3 children would never reach adulthood, a staggering reality that shaped the rhythms of family life and the quiet anxieties of mothers and fathers. Parents swaddled, fed, and soothed with care, but even the most vigilant efforts could not always protect against fever, plague, or the simple vulnerability of small bodies to infection. Grief and hope intertwined in the naming of children. When a newborn died, it was not unusual for a subsequent child to receive the same name. A name carried meaning, a family memory, and perhaps, in repeating it, the wish that the second or third child might succeed where the first had not. Families learned to live with absence and yet to continue. Each birth was a risk, a miracle, and a reminder of the precariousness of life. Church bells tolled frequently, not only for the elderly, not only for those who had lived full lives, but also for infants who had barely begun. The sound of the bells, echoing across villages, announced death as a communal experience. Neighbors, even strangers, were drawn into mourning, for the loss of a child was never only the grief of one family. It was a shared acknowledgement of life's uncertainty, a reminder that death could strike swiftly and without warning. The grief was punctuated by ritual. Families turned to prayers, holy water, and blessings, seeking comfort and protection. Burial practices reflected both hope and despair. Graves were dug with care, often within consecrated grounds, to ensure that the departed infant might rest safely. Mothers carried sorrow in silence and in ceremony, honoring the brief life that had touched them, whispering names into the cold earth, swaddling the memory as carefully as they once swaddled the body. Even daily routines carried the weight of mortality. Parents remained vigilant over every cry, every fever, every cough. Midwives offered remedies and charms, but medicine was uncertain, and superstition filled the gaps. Herbs were steeped in hope, amulets hung at cradles, and prayers murmured against invisible threats. Each action, no matter how small, was an effort to forestall the inevitable, to preserve life in the face of constant risk. Yet amid this ever-present shadow, life persisted. Siblings grew, playing and learning, surviving where others had not. Families adapted, developing resilience alongside mourning. Joy and sorrow existed side by side, inseparable, shaping the medieval understanding of childhood as both precious and perilous. Every laugh was measured, every milestone celebrated with quiet gratitude, because the fragility of existence was always remembered. In this way, the Middle Ages taught families a delicate balance, to nurture, to hope, and to grieve. Life was fleeting, yes, but it was also vivid in its persistence. The shadows of mortality stretched long, yet within them the warmth of care, the dedication of parents and midwives, and the small triumphs of survival shone brighter for the knowledge of what was always at stake. Childhood in the Middle Ages was a brief, delicate season, a fleeting period between the dangers of infancy and the responsibilities of adulthood. Children grew quickly, not only in body but in expectation. From the earliest years, their lives were entwined with work, learning, and play, each day a delicate balance between duty and discovery. Even as infants swaddled and fed were only beginning to face the risks of survival, those who lived past the fragile early years were expected to grow into usefulness swiftly. Boys were often apprenticed to fathers or craftsmen, learning trades, handling tools, or tending animals. Girls learned the rhythms of domestic life, assisting mothers with cooking, cleaning, spinning, and weaving. Work was not a punishment but a necessity, and it began as soon as a child was capable. Tasks were simple at first, gathering firewood, carrying water, feeding poultry, but they increased in complexity as the child grew, each small skill a step toward the responsibilities of adulthood. Yet work did not consume every moment. Play and imagination were woven into daily life, often alongside chores. Children ran through village streets, chased one another with sticks or hoops, and invented games from what little materials they could find. Dolls carved from wood or rags offered companionship, and small toys were treasured, often improvised from scraps. Even in play, lessons were learned: balance, coordination, cooperation, and cunning, preparing children for the demands of the adult world. Parents, though loving, understood the precariousness of life. Love was tempered by the knowledge that grief could strike at any moment. Children were cherished fiercely, but families also prepared themselves to endure loss. Naming traditions reflected this. Names repeated, honors passed on, hope persisted alongside fear. Stories were told not only to delight but to instill caution and respect, teaching children about the world's dangers and the ways to navigate them safely. Education was a mixture of the formal and the informal, the sacred and the practical. Some children learned to read and write, often in monasteries or under the guidance of clergy. Others absorbed knowledge through oral instruction, watching their elders and mimicking actions, learning trades, manners, and survival skills by observing and participating. Religion permeated these lessons. Prayers, hymns, and biblical stories were both instruction and moral guidance, shaping a child's understanding of life, death, and their place in the world. The passage from childhood to adulthood was gradual yet unmistakable. Rites of passage, such as confirmation, apprenticeship, or service in a household, marked the transition. Play became work. Curiosity became responsibility. Life's fragility remained, but resilience grew. Children learned to celebrate small victories, to enjoy laughter in the fleeting moments of leisure, and to respect the inevitability of sorrow. Growing up medieval was a dance between care and caution, between joy and grief. Each day brought lessons, tasks, and small triumphs. Parents nurtured with vigilance, loved with tenderness, and grieved with quiet acceptance. And through it all, children carried the legacy of survival, creativity, and hope, learning that life, though fragile, could be rich in its fleeting hours. In the quiet corners of medieval homes, small acts of remembrance kept families alive across the centuries. Mothers and fathers, midwives and clerics recorded births, deaths, and names in prayer books and family ledgers, or even on simple scraps of parchment. Each entry was a whisper to the future, a way of saying, "This life mattered. This child lived." A single line could mark a joy or a sorrow, a birth greeted with hope or a death mourned in tears. These records were more than mere notes. They were rituals of memory, acts of devotion, and a recognition of the fragile thread of existence. Each name written down was a story preserved, a connection between the living and the departed. Families often kept these records alongside the sacred, a small cross drawn in the margin, a prayer for protection, a hope for peace. The act of recording became an act of love, a way to shape continuity in a world where loss was frequent and time was uncertain. Life moved in cycles, and each generation prepared the next. Children grew under the watchful eyes of parents and elders, learning trades, manners, and prayers. They imitated the gestures of those before them, repeated the songs and stories, and in doing so became part of the ongoing rhythm of life. Each meal prepared, each chore taught, each lullaby sung was a thread woven into a tapestry of continuity, linking past, present, and future. Families understood that life was delicate, yet resilient. The death of an infant, the loss of a spouse, the disappearance of a sibling, these were not just private sorrows. They were experiences that shaped the family's identity, teaching endurance and empathy, patience and care. Names were repeated, commemorations observed, and stories retold to honor those who had passed. In this way, memory became a form of survival. Even in loss, the family endured, carrying forward traditions, skills, and values. Communities, too, played their part in preserving memory. Church bells tolled for births and deaths alike, and neighbors witnessed baptisms, marriages, and funerals. Local festivals, holy days, and rituals reinforced the cycle of life, marking the passage of time with acts of remembrance. Shared grief and celebration reminded everyone that individuals were part of something larger, a living chain of human experience stretching across decades and centuries. And so, families persisted. The world was harsh, fragile, and uncertain, but within the rhythms of daily life, love, and care, there was strength. Generations rose and fell, yet memory provided a continuity beyond the limits of the human body. Names and deeds, joys and sorrows, lived on in careful record-keeping, in stories, in prayers whispered in the dead of night. In the end, the medieval household, with its careful records, tender rituals, and quiet remembrance, teaches a simple truth. Life is fleeting, yet in the attention we give to one another, in the memories we preserve, and in the love we pass along, we endure. The fragility of life is matched by the strength of family, a strength that echoes across centuries, a gentle hum in the long, soft night of human history. As the candles burn low and the fire's warmth softens the shadows, we step back from the rhythms of medieval life. We have witnessed the cycle of birth and death, of joy and sorrow, that shaped families centuries ago. We have lingered in the quiet, dark chambers of the birthing room, felt the weight of hours-long labors, and seen the tender care given to the tiniest lives. We have walked through homes filled with swaddled infants, heard the soft prayers whispered over weak or premature babies, and understood the ever-present shadow of mortality that hovered over children and parents alike. Childhood was fleeting, work and play intertwined, love and grief inseparable. Yet in that fragility, we also see a quiet strength. The devotion of parents, the guidance of midwives, the ritual and record-keeping that preserved memory across generations. These lives were ordinary and yet extraordinary. Ordinary in their repetition, their small routines, the chores and meals and songs of the household. Extraordinary in their endurance, the care that persisted despite danger, the rituals that offered comfort, and the stories that carried meaning. Each family, each child, each parent was part of a delicate but resilient chain, linking past to present, one heartbeat to another. In thinking of them, we are reminded of our own fragility and our own continuity. Though the world has changed, hospitals have replaced hearths, science has replaced superstition, the rhythms of care, of love, and of memory remain. We cradle the young, honor the old, and record the lives of those who matter. In doing so, we join a lineage stretching back through centuries, a quiet echo of humanity that endures through time. And now, as your eyes grow heavy, let the soft cadence of these centuries soothe you. Imagine the warmth of a medieval home, the gentle hush of swaddled infants, the watchful care of hands both loving and practiced. Let the cycles of life, death, and memory wrap around you like a familiar blanket. Sleep now with the knowledge that across time and space, humans have always sought to protect, to remember, and to endure. The medieval world may seem distant and strange, but in its quiet devotion, it reflects a truth we carry still. Life is fleeting, yes, but love persists. Care is eternal. And memory, gentle and enduring, keeps us all connected. Good night.